Hello, everybody. Welcome to lesson 6.4. As always, we're going to start with the pop code. So please open up the pop code, and then I'm going to show you the directions really quickly. We want to make it so that using jQuery, we make it so that when you click the bye-bye button, this picture of this dancing alien disappears. But there's one caveat. You have to use one of the jQuery actions that we talked about last time in lesson 6.3, okay? You can't use .hide. So if you wanna go check back lesson 6.3, look at your notes, you can, but we have to make this picture disappear using one of the jQuery actions we learned in lesson 6.3, okay? So I'll give you a moment to do that, and then when you're done doing it, unpause this video and we'll go over the answer. Okay, so I'm assuming you've unpaused at this point. So let's go over the answer. So I want to make this picture disappear using jQuery. So the first thing I'm going to think is the first line is what I do as the user, right? So what am I clicking that I want to, what am I going to click to make the picture disappear? The button. So let me go into HTML and figure out where my button is, or that button. I see on line 7, there's the button, has a class of hide. So here I'm going to put, it's a class, I have to put dot hide. Second line is what's going to happen, what's going to be the output, okay? And I want the picture to hide when I click. So I need to find the tag for the picture in my HTML. I see there's no class, it's just an image. So I'm going to put $, because I'm using jQuery, just put img because it's just, there's no class. And then I have to figure out what's the jQuery action I'm going to use in order to make it hide. And you could use slide up to make it disappear, because that will get rid of it, or you could use fade out to make it disappear, right? These are two of the things that we learned last class. I'm going to use slide up, but fade out is fine too. You could also use .hide, but that's not something that we learned in last class. And add my ending punctuation here, and voila, the picture disappears. Now, really quick, just want to hammer something home for all of us, right? Looking at this example, or even the example that we just did in the do now, which is the element that we should click on, and then which is the element that we would change? Just think about that. Yes, so the first one, what we would click on is the element that has the class of .hide. And then what would change is this image, which is in the second line, right? And it would fade in. So what's really going to be important as we work with jQuery for the rest of this unit and for the rest of the other units and for the rest of your ever experience working with jQuery is that when we write these things, on the first line is what the user is doing. In this case, the user is clicking. And on the second line, it's what's going to happen based on what the user has done. And in this case, it's the image fading in, okay? Just keep that in mind. On the first line, it's your user input, what you're doing, the event. And the second line is the output, what the computer is doing based on what you've done or the action. Keep that in mind. Because today we are going to learn some more jQuery actions, which are going to be really cool and take your websites to even the next level. So coders will use jQuery actions that take one or more arguments, such as .text and .css. Some important vocab is selector, arguments, action, .text, and .css. So did you know that you can use jQuery not just to make pictures hide or appear or show, but to change the CSS? What does it look like? Let's take a look. So we have this website with this wacky inflatable arm person. And what happens when I click the button that says click me to change color? True to what it says, it changes color. You see it went from dark blue to aqua, or just blue to aqua, okay? And that was done with jQuery. So in order to know how to change the CSS like that, what you're going to need to remember is the syntax for CSS. I know it's been a minute, but that's going to be key to being able to change the CSS using jQuery like we just saw on that website. So just as a quick review, in this example, in this code, what is the selector, what is the property, and what is the value? Let's start with selector. What is the selector in this example? Yeah, it's body, okay? What is the property? There are two. There are two properties in this example of CSS code. Yep, background color, which changes the whole background color as its name suggests, and color, which, if you remember, is the property in CSS that changes the color of the text. And then what are the two values here? Yep, purple and aqua. So we put this all together. This CSS code will make the background color of the whole web page purple and make the color of all the text on the page aqua. And that's important because the .css action changes the CSS properties of the element selected to a new value provided as an argument. And we'll go into more with what I mean by argument in a second. But as you see, and you look in the second line here, the .css action it's in a similar place to all other actions that we've learned, like fade in, fade out, show, etc. The only difference is that instead of having an empty parentheses, we notice that there's something in the parentheses now. And these are what we're trying to change about the CSS. So let's take a look at this example again and look closer at the code and try to change some other things so that we can practice. So right now, if I go to the JavaScript on that second line, I see the .css action, and then I see the CSS that I'm trying to change. Let's say I want to change the background color to red. I don't want it to be aqua when I click the button. Let's see, what would I change? Just think about that. In order to make it so that when I click the button, the background color is red. What do you think I'd change? Yep, how about I take out aqua and I put red, because that's the value that I'm changing it to. And lo and behold, it works. Now, we can change anything about the CSS with this .css action. How about we change the size of the image, right? Because that's part of CSS too. So let's change the size of the image. So if I'm changing the size of the image, would I keep body as my selector if I want to change the image? No, which be my selector. The image, exactly. So I'm going to change the image. I'm going to change this body to image. There's no class in the image, so I don't need to worry about that. And I want to change the size of the image. Do you remember the property for image size, or one of them? Width, exactly. So let me put width. And then let's say I want to make the image, let's go big. Let's go 800 px, right? Because that's how we write values for size. Oh, for 880, 800. Okay, let's click the button and see what happens. Whoa, you see that? So using this .css action, which is very powerful, we can change a lot of things about the CSS in our websites with jQuery. And one key thing that you might have noticed there is that I did a lot of changing within these parentheses after the .css action. And what we call this, what's in those parentheses, is called an argument, okay? The argument is what we're trying to change about the CSS. So in this case, which argument is the CSS property and which one is the value? Yep, just as in CSS, color is the property and aqua is the value. The value is what we want it to become. The property is like the element that we're trying to change or modify, okay? So this, and between the parentheses after the CSS action or after any action is called the argument. Now, the second jQuery action that's really powerful that we're going to learn about today is called .text. Okay, .text doesn't change the CSS, but it replaces the text of the element selected with the argument that's provided in parentheses. So looking at the code below, what do you think this code will do? Yep, so this code will change the text of the element .myReply to hello, right? Maybe it said something different before, but once you click this button, whatever was in .myReply, whether that's a div or h1 or whatever, that text is going to change to hello because of this .text action and because of what we put as its argument. And once again, that what's in parentheses after the .text action, that jQuery action, is called the argument. That is what we're changing things to. Okay. One thing that's important to know is that we can change multiple things in a single button click, okay? So looking at this code right now, when you click the button, what's gonna happen to this web page? Exactly, so the div is going to change color. the text in the div is going to change to the color of yellow, and the text of all the p tags is going to change to my text is yellow now. So you can do more than one thing within a single button click. You just need to put the code there for it. Okay. So just a quick lightning review. What are the jQuery actions in this example? Yep. .text and .css, those are the jQuery actions, right? Same thing as if you would have .show or .hide or .fade in, right? Those are jQuery actions. These are the ones that we've gone over today, .text and .css. And then what are the arguments in this example? Yep, you win and then color purple are the arguments. That's what we're changing. So for this example, well, think about it. What would happen when I click this button? Just think about it in your head for a second. Yeah, when I click this button, the text would change to you win, and the color of all the text on the page would change to purple, okay? Using these actions and these arguments. So let's take a look at this in action. Let's do some guided practice. We're going to do our Simpsons theme guided practice here. What we want to make happen is, Homer eating donuts. We want it to be that when Homer's asking the question, can I have another donut? We want to make it so that when I click to reply yes to him, that it says something right here, that his response comes up right here, okay? So I don't know how many of you watch Simpsons, but I know that Homer, when he gets what he wants or he's excited, he'll often say, woohoo! So let's make it so that when we click to reply yes, that here underneath it, it says, woohoo! So they already did some of the work for us. They set up the first part, the click part, okay? So that part is done. Now I need to make it so that underneath that button, it says, woohoo! So I'm gonna start with my $sign, it's jQuery. Now, what's gonna be my selector? I have to think, where do I want the woohoo to show up? I'm just gonna X this out for a second. I want the woohoo to show up underneath the button. So where in my HTML is that space under the button represented? And if I look here, I see the click to reply yes button. And under that, I see there's a P tag that has no text in it. And it says Homer's reply. So I think that's where I want the reply to show up. So let me put as my selector, that P tag, which has the name of Homer's reply. Okay. And then I want it to change the text. So what CSS action am I going to use to change the text to woohoo? Yep, .text, just as the name suggests. And here I have to make sure you put parentheses. I'm gonna put woohoo. I think that's how you spell woohoo. Okay, and let's see what happens now. Exactly, okay, it shows up. Now, even if I had text in this P tag that said something different, because of what I coded, as soon as I click this reply button, any text that would be there would change to woohoo. Now let's change something using the .css, okay? Let's say we want to make something else change. How about we change the color of the background to yellow, okay? So when the person clicks yes, let's keep it under the same click handler, the same click, because as we know, we can do multiple things in one click. So let's change the color of the background. So I'm gonna put my $sign when we click yes, okay? And if I'm trying to change the color of the entire background of the web page, which be my selector? Body, right? Because body covers the whole web page of what we see, okay? Now, the jQuery action I need to use in order to change the CSS is which one? .css, yep, okay. And now we need to put in the arguments. So we're trying to change the background color. What is the CSS property for background color? Yep, background color. Just don't forget the dash there in the middle, but simple enough. Okay, and then we know the value then I set to yellow would just be yellow. And let's see how this works. When I click yes, the text should change to woohoo still. And now also the background color of the whole website should be yellow. And lo and behold, it works, okay? So key takeaways here. remember to use the .text and .css actions, and then add the arguments of specifying what you want things to change to, but also we have to make sure that we're picking the right selectors, okay? So we have to be mindful of, well, what are we trying to change? And then where's that in the HTML? All right, so now what y'all are going to do is you're going to do the independent practice. It's still going to be Simpsons theme, but what you're going to try to do are these following things. Make it so that when you click the no button, Homer responds do when you click no, that the background color changes, and that the color of the header text changes, and the photo becomes bigger, okay? So follow the directions and make all of these things happen when you click, well, when you click reply no, okay? And don't worry about this guided practice part. That's what we just did. Focus here on the independent practice part, okay? That's what you will do all these things. Just make sure you follow the directions. Okie dokie. With that said, after you're done with that, make sure you do the exit ticket. There's several questions here. And then with that, we're done. Very nicely done. And goodbye.